Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to England once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel once before. The last beer that I had from these guys was pretty impressive, but that was about 2 and a bit years ago now, so I'm curious to see how one of their newer beers turns out actually, because they have been getting some very good feedback in recent times. So we're going to go to Newcastle in the northeast of England, and we're having a look at my second beer from Almasty Brewing Company. So this one is called the Granddaddy Purple. It comes in at 6% ABV, and it's another New England hazy type IPA, this one. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. The last beer that I had from these guys was simply called Double IPA, and despite having this brewery, you know, fairly close to where I was in Durham for a while, you know, it was very difficult to get a hold of the Almasty stuff. I think Hop Knocker in Durham only ever got a hold of their beers once, and the guys in the market, actually, Market Wines, they only ever got a hold of their beers once as well, actually. So I only ever managed one Almasty review when I was in Durham for a couple of months. So yeah, that was a bit of a shame, but I do have access to them now through the House of Trembling Madness, which was where this beer was bought. So yeah, we'll keep an eye and see what these guys are doing over the next little while, and maybe the next time I make an order from House of Trembling Madness, I'll order something else from these guys. But I thought it would be nice to return to them, one, as I say, because it had been a while since I've tried something, and two, their beers are getting some pretty nice feedback at the moment. So as I said, very curious to see how this one turns out, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. A 6% New England hazy IPA. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Almasty Brewing Company before, and hopefully we can add more to that in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regular at the moment because I bought that big box from Trembling Madness, and we are getting a fairly regular feed of English beers over in Sweden at the moment, which is very good, so you will see some of those as well. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Almasty Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So Almasty Brewing is owned by Mark McGarry. Apparently he first discovered beer when he was travelling in New Zealand, Canada and Europe after he finished university, but then when he came back to his home in the northeast of England, his friend got him a job as an assistant brewer at the Mordew Brewery, and he stayed there for 4 years. After this he went on to work for Tyne Bank Brewery in Osborne, if I'm pronouncing that right, probably not, but he was the head brewer there for 2 years. But at this point he decided that he wanted to kind of set up for himself, and this was when he established Almasty Brewing Company back in 2015. Over the last few years these guys have built up the infrastructure of their brewery. They were originally based in the Algernon Industrial Estate in Shiremoor, but in early 2020 they moved to Benfield Business Park to the east of the city. It looks as if it's almost about halfway out to North and South Shields actually. It is over to the east of the central part of Newcastle. But as of January 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 150 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, so they have been quite prolific over the last little while. That's, if it's about 2015 that these guys were established, that is about 30 different beers a year. Maybe a little bit less than that now, but apparently the name Almasty as well comes from the Russian word for wild man, which translates, you know, to somewhere along the lines of yeti. It's basically Almasty, I think, is derived from the Russian word for basically what is a yeti. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Almasty Brewing Company for the moment. I enjoyed the last beer I had from these guys. As I say, they were a little bit difficult to get a hold of even when I was in Durham, but yeah, it's nice to have something from these guys again. So very much looking forward to trying this one. So yeah, that's, as I say, all I can tell you about Almasty Brewing Company just now. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open it up. As you can see, it's quite, you know, it's one of these kind of modernist type. It reminds me a little bit of the kind of Gamma brewing cans actually that we have in Copenhagen. over in Denmark. But yeah, kind of typical design, if you like, for the New England IPA cans these days. Oh, this one's got a little dent in the bottom, but I'm sure that won't have affected it. But it says on the back here, the grandfather of New England IPAs, Granddaddy Purple, emits a sweet berry fragrance followed by complex grape and marshmallow scent. The magic of the Galaxy hop delicately enhances this beer with zesty and earthy notes. Almasty is focused on contemporary ales that push flavour to the fore. Yeah, so pretty nice. 6% ABV, this one, like I said to you, and there you can see on the back of the can this kind of foresty tree symbol there. Let's just see the camera focus on it. That is the Almasty Brewing Company symbol, and you can see the can is sweating a little bit. I think that fridge is still a little bit cold. I've been playing with the settings the last few days, but yeah, nice. I do like the kind of the artwork on this one. But yeah, 440ml can, this one. I think I paid about £5 or something for this through House of Trembling Madness. But yeah, let's get it out into the glass and see how we get on. The Granddaddy Purple 6% New England IPA with Galaxy, and by the sounds of what it says, it might have Enigma in it as well, come to think of. If it's saying berry and grape, that could be quite interesting. So maybe it's got Enigma in it. Yeah, if it's Galaxy and Enigma would be a very interesting pairing, of course. But yeah, that looks pretty good. I will put a little bit more in. I'm going to share this one with my dad after, but yeah, shift it in the glasses, it's fine. But yeah, looks pretty good, I have to say. This looks like a lovely, lovely beer. The level of haze on that for a 6%er is pretty damn impressive, actually. I was wondering if my light was on. I was thinking it was a little bit dark on the camera there. But yeah, if we shine the light through this beer, this one's got a lovely, it's almost like a kind of pineapple juice, this one, in terms of its appearance. But look at the level of haze on that for a 6%er. That is pretty damn impressive. You can see that this beer is poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on that. That's going to fade away and be a very thin foamy layer, but it's going to leave quite an impressive ring around the edge of the glass. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass on this one, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but I mean overall it does look pretty nice. Remember, the colour of your beer is dependent on 2 things. 1, the length of the boil, and 2, the type of malts that you use. The longer you boil the beer, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus the kind of richer, darker colour you tend to get. But then again, it is dependent on what type of malts you use in the first place. And the level of haze in a New England IPA is usually dependent on the amount of wheat and oats and things that you use. And of course, as you go up the alcohol scale to double IPAs and things, you know, usually you should have more wheat and oats in the beer. But this definitely, for a 6%, the level of haze on this is pretty damn impressive. I've seen, you know, triple IPAs that are not as hazy looking as this, to be honest with you. So I think this should be quite nice. Does this one have wheat and oats and things in it? Yes. Yeah, oats and wheat in it. So yeah, this one looks as if it's a bit of a beast in that sense. But yeah, certainly very impressive in terms of its appearance. More of a kind of lighter yellow, this one, like a pineapple juice rather than a mango juice in my mind. A little bit paler. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of appearance, but impressive level of haze, like I said. Let's have a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. Very curious. Oh, that is nice. That is very, very nice. What I'm going to say straight away with this one is that it comes across as being, it's got a bit of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose, but this one comes across as being an oat-leaning New England IPA. You get that sweetness off the oats and that smoothness out of the oats right away in this one. And I see what they mean about the grapes. You really can smell a little bit of grape out of this as soon as you put that on the nose. But the aroma out of that is absolutely lovely. So gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard as well. Yeah, that's very, very nicely done. I love trying these English beers, actually. I noticed that Galaxy still seems to be a popular hop in England, and I think some of the Scottish breweries are using it as well. But you don't see Galaxy used all that much back over in Scandinavia. I don't know why. Maybe it's easier to bring in Australian hops to the UK than it is to take them into the mainland Europe. I don't know, but the the fruity notes out of this beer are very, very nice. But yeah, like I say, you can smell with this beer straight away. This has got a lovely creamy backbone to it, a lot of big oaty characters in there. It's got a wee touch of a kind of Werther's Original sort of thing to it, but it's really the smoothness of the oats that kind of form the backbone of this beer. If you take the aroma in a little bit more kind of deeply, yeah, you can definitely get, if you take it in more deeply, you will get a bit of the bitiness of the wheat coming out of this one, which is very, very nice. So yeah, lovely kind of bitey, wheaty character coming out of this one. You've also, it's a very smooth malt base though, this one. It leans towards that sort of treehouse type thing, but I think this is it even smells a little bit sweeter. It smells a little bit sweeter, this one, to be honest with you. The level of grape that you're getting out of this, though, I keep smelling that grape. I do wonder, one of the tricks that they used to use with West Coast IPAs, sometimes they put a little touch of grape sugar or something in them, from what I remember. There was someone was telling me that the home brewing that they used to do that, they used to add a little bit of grape sugar into the beers, the West Coast IPAs, just to give you a little touch of red fruit almost. And you do get that kind of smell out of this one, so I wonder, but it doesn't say that on the ingredients list. I wouldn't, if it's not listed there. I think that is a law here. You know, you have to put all the ingredients on the thing. But the aroma, the grapey notes you get out of this really do remind me of that. But yeah, the malt base of this one, lovely and smooth, very oaty leaning, bit of wheaty bitiness. It doesn't really have such a kind of soft white bready note as you can sometimes get from these beers. It's the oats, it's the smoothness of the oats all the way there, and just a little touch of a Werther's Original kind of thing in the middle of the nose as well. But I love the smell of the malt base in this one, very, very nice. Let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. Yeah, the green component of this beer, you do get a wee tiny touch of earthiness out of this one, but not overly much. There's a tiny little bit of it there. It's got a nice, quite deep floral aromaticity to it. But I would say, really, I want to say that the green side of this beer really leans towards the grassy side of the spectrum. Yeah, it really leans towards the kind of grassy side of it. There is a little bit of a floral component there, like I say. You have to, when you take the aroma of this beer in more deeply, you really get more wheat and you get more floral aromaticity and aromaticity out of this thing. And almost a very slightly resinous character to it, but not pine resin, it's just a resonating kind of floral aromaticity, if that makes sense. But yeah, the green component of this beer is quite soft actually, and I think that suits the sweeter oatiness of the beer too, which is quite interesting. So yeah, green side of this beer is also very nicely done. This is one of these beers where everything seems to just slot together really quite nicely. But yeah, fruity side of things then, let's focus on that part of it. So when you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply, you have, how do you say, when you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply, you get some of that kind of big passion fruity note that you would expect of Galaxy. Galaxy is quite a big pungent passion fruit and pineapple sort of thing from what I remember. I do wonder though, there's a few hops that I think could be involved in this one along with Galaxy. There's, I think maybe there could be a bit of Nelson Sauvin. Maybe there could be a little bit of Hallertau Blanc, or it could be Enigma, which is another Australian one that I mentioned earlier. Enigma is quite similar to both Hallertau Blanc and Nelson Sauvin in that it's got those white kind of green grapey notes to it that can in a way come across as gooseberry. But yeah, there's a lot of grapey notes to this beer for me. And I really do wonder if there's Enigma in this. There's just a few signs in my head. I always love playing Guess the Hops with these beers, as you'll know. It's very difficult these days because of how many there are. But I wouldn't be surprised if Enigma is in here as well. And Enigma's a beautiful hop. That would be quite good for Almasty actually, if they put what hops are in these beers, because if they are going to focus on brewing IPAs, I like the educational element of these things. I like learning about the different hops. But I've got a feeling that this is Galaxy and Enigma. There are other things that it could be. I mean, as I say, it could be a bit of Hallertau Blanc from Germany, which it is quite similar to Nelson Sauvin, but it doesn't have the big floral notes. It's a more soft, it's got a more noble type quality to it rather than the big spicy notes that you can sometimes get from Nelson Sauvin. I do want to say there's Enigma in this. If someone from Almasty is watching, please let me know if there's Enigma hop in this. There's just a few things in here that really make me think that. But yeah, you do get some nice passion fruity notes out of this. You get a few softer tropical fruits in there, you know, like a papaya, apricot sort of thing. That's quite common to get that in these kind of beers. But yeah, white and green grapes. They say gooseberries on the label. I could see that. Gooseberries are a little bit more oily for me than the notes you're getting out of this. I would say, like, you know, white, green grapes, to be honest with you. It really comes across very, very nicely in that sense. It could just be Nelson Sauvin that's in it as well. That's the thing. But I think it's the sort of, there is just a little bit of a kind of purple grapey note to this one as well, which makes me think, you know, Enigma can sometimes give you like a cranberry purple grapey sort of thing from what I remember. So yeah, I'm seem to be determined there's a bit of Enigma in this, but regardless, it's a beautiful smelling beer. You've got a little bit of a red grapey sort of thing, gooseberries, green grapes, white grapes, all of that. A little bit of pineapple from the galaxy as well, some softer tropical fruits, and that slightly more pungent thing as well. The fruity side of this beer, I think that's the highlight of this for me. But yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it. I could sit and smell this all day because it's beautiful. But this one is the Granddaddy Purple, a New England IPA coming in at 6% ABV from Almasty Brewing Company next to Newcastle in the northeast of England. Nice to have these guys on the channel again. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm going to say straight away, that is a very nice beer. It's interesting, it's got a bit of bite to it in the beginning for sure, and it's got a very wet mouthfeel. But then you start to get the oats and things coming out of this later on. This beer, it gives you what you would expect from the aroma in the aftertaste, but initially, it's not what you expect. That's interesting, absolutely. But it's a nice beer, that's the main thing. Yeah, that gets a thumbs up from me. Absolutely gets a thumbs up from me. I think Almasty have done a really nice job of that. And if their other IPAs are like this, it's quite obvious why. It really is quite obvious why they're getting a lot of praise just now, because that's really damn solid. So well done to Almasty for this one. Yeah, it's a very well balanced beer, this. It's got a bit of sort of wheaty bitiness in the beginning, and then as you move further into the aftertaste, it's got more of a, it really has got more of that softer oaty kind of thing, so it gets a big thumbs up from me, to be honest with you, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, let's try. I really like that, actually. Very impressed, I have to say. So let's try and just break it down a wee bit. And see how we go. I was just sitting almost daydreaming because I was like, I really like this. So thumbs up to Almasty. But yeah, where to start with this beer then? So like I said, when you take this one in, you do get a bit more of a bite to it. Straight away with this beer, you can feel a bit of that pale malty quality just blanketing the middle of your palate there. But you'll notice that on that back third of your palate, you really get a bit of wheaty bite out of this one, and it actually spreads a little bit further forward into that middle third of your palate, I think. It does have a sort of slightly... it's got quite a crisp white bready character to it in the base in that middle third of your palate, and you can feel... Pardon me, as you go further into the aftertaste with this one, you start to get more kind of, you do start to get more of a kind of soft, oaty character to this one. In the aroma, it really gives you a big creamy oaty vibe, but then the oats, I think, really, it's a lot more balanced than that in the actual flavour, which is quite nice. I do like the balance that this beer has. It's got a bit of bite from the wheat, like I say, and the soft kind of oaty notes there. But the oats aren't too creamy in this, they are just a little bit smooth. If that makes sense. Yeah, that's a really solid IPA. I don't know how widely distributed Almasty are getting their beers these days. I mean, the guy who is most likely to have reviewed some of these, I would think, would be Krzysztof from Ale Degustations. And do make sure you check out his channel, actually. Very nice guy, originally from Poland, I want to say he lives in Gateshead. But he's got some great reviews there, and I like the way he does his things. But yeah, he's probably the one that's most likely to have reviewed these kinds of beer, actually, and I'd be interested to hear his opinion on them. But this, I'd be curious to know where they're distributing their beers to, because I don't think the other English guys have done too many reviews from these guys, come to think of it. And like I said, I used to struggle to get them, and it's a shame when you think about the quality of these beers. The malt base, as I say, really nicely executed, quite crisp, pale pale malty sort of thing in the middle of your palate. The oats come out a little bit later. It does thicken up the back third of your palate, nice and bitey and wheaty. So lots of interesting things going on there. It's quite a straight shooting malt base in a lot of ways, but I like how it's got bite in the beginning and it just smooths out the further you go into the aftertaste. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there's definitely a wee bit of earthiness there. As you move further along the sides of your palate, this one actually does develop quite on almost quite spicy floral aromaticity, although in fairness it is a little bit resinous. I wouldn't be surprised if you've got something like Columbus or Chinook in here as a bittering hop. There's something familiar about the sort of bitterness that you get on the side of your palate here. So I would say it could even be both, because it does have a little bit of the kind of dankness of Chinook if you like, but it's also got a wee bit of the spiciness, pardon me, that you would expect from Columbus. So the nice bitter edge that this beer has as well is quite good, and that sort of adds to the effect, it amplifies the effect of the wheat, but then round the front curve of the palate it's distinctly more light and kind of grassy in a sense. But yeah, the grassy component, the sort of softer grassy side of the beer at the front of the palate is really quite nice. Remember, when it comes to the green component of beers though, it really depends when during the boil you add your hops, because if you add them early on in the boil, that's when you get the big bitterness coming out, and as you go through the boil progressively you've got a trade-off between bitterness and you know, aroma and flavour coming out of these hops. So yeah, you have to remember that. So this one, I think there is a bittering hop in here, Columbus or Chinook, and then I think the Galaxy and maybe the Enigma or Nelson Sauvignon, whatever it is being used later on in the boil as aroma hops. Usually a New England IPA like this will have, you know, between a 70 and a 90-minute boil. But yeah, the way that everything in the malt and the green side of this beer go together is very nice. Let's focus on the fruity side of things. Front third of your palate, as I always say, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. If you go towards the back of it, you do get a wee bit of a kind of stronger grapefruity note in there. That makes me think there's a bit of Chinook in this. But then you get the passion fruit, and you're going to get quite a bit of pungent passion fruit from Galaxy anyway. But as you move further forward, the pungency of the passion fruit just fades away a little bit. You perhaps get a wee bit of mango out of it, and then as you reach that front half of the front third of your tongue, the front sixth of your tongue if you will, you get more of that white, green, grapey sort of thing out of this one, which, as I say, I think it's either Enigma or it's a little bit of Nelson Sauvignon or Hallertau Blanc. It's something like that, but you've got a soft white, green, grapey sort of thing. They say gooseberry. It maybe does have the oiliness to be gooseberry too, in fairness, but yeah, it's these soft kind of things that are going on in there as well. But it's a very nice beer from that fruitiness as well. The grapey flavours, the kind of grapey aromas that you get out of this one, they do come out a little bit in the flavour. I mean, like right on the very kind of front edge of the tongue, it's even more oily, and you get a little bit of an almost red grapey, blackcurranty sort of thing out of the beer. But there's not too much of that, definitely not, I wouldn't say. And it's interesting because if Enigma was used in this, I think Enigma usually gives you, like I say, it can give you a wee bit of a blackcurranty, cranberry, like red fruity sort of thing from what I remember. So yeah, it could be Enigma. I would love to know. I need to have a few more beers that have Enigma in it. I love that hop, but it's very rare to find it in Europe these days, unfortunately. Yeah, it's rare to find Enigma these days, but I think I've got a feeling it could be. I think this is maybe. I've got a feeling that this beer is, you know, Chinook and Columbus in the malt base, and then you've also got a little bit of you know, I think Enigma and Galaxy potentially as the aroma hops in this one. Maybe something else in there as well, but it's beautifully done, this, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. I like the way that goes together in this one. It's a solid beer, this, and I can see exactly why Almasty are getting such positive reviews just now. If this beer is anything to go by, absolutely, 100%. But yeah, let's leave it at that for the tasting section. Mouthfeel wise, this beer again is quite solid. This beer again is quite, I would say it's quite it's top end and mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth in this one. it's got a nice kind of creaminess to it that builds. I think the creaminess of this beer builds the further that you go into it, definitely. As I say, it leans towards the oats in the aftertaste, but early on when you take it in, it does have a more wheaty bitiness to it, and that's one of the things I like about this beer. It's got the best of both ends of the New England spectrum in it. But yeah, I do like how that goes together. So I would say that this one, it's got quite a crisp mouthfeel almost too. I find this one quite crisp because of the wheaty bitiness. So yeah, nice bit of smoothness in there. In terms of IBUs, I think this one I feel that this one's maybe a little bit more bitter. This could be about 40 or maybe even a little bit more, maybe even 50. Remember, my IBU detection is by far the weakest part of my my beer review. So I would say that I think this one has a bit more bitterness. I think either this is very fresh or it's a bit stronger in IBUs, 40, maybe even 50 IBUs to be honest. So yeah, malt based, like I say, it's got a bit of wheaty bite in the beginning. It smoothens out and sweetens up a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste, and it's also got some nice oily, juicy fruits to it, this one. But yeah, this gets a big thumbs up from me. I certainly like how this one goes together from Almasty. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame that these guys are not as well recognised as some of the other breweries in England, but I'm sure in time, as they scale up a little bit, that will come, because the quality of the beer speaks for itself, to be honest. Really impressed with that one. So, pardon me. So, yeah, really enjoyed this. I think we can leave it there for this beer. Really nice and drinkable. Juicy fruits, slightly, builds a bit of creaminess as you go, but quite a bitey and almost crisp New England IPA for me, but very, very good. So yeah, let's leave it there. This one was the Granddaddy Purple, 6% New England IPA from Almasty Brewing Company in Newcastle in the northeast of England. A brewery that I've wanted to return to for quite a little while, and it certainly didn't let me down when we managed to do it, so let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Almasty Brewing Company as well. We will return to these guys at some point in the future. But yeah, I enjoyed this one, and I hope that you guys enjoyed my take on this beer as well. So let's leave it there. Thank you again for watching. Until the next time, Slanger just now. Make sure you check out Almasty Brewing Company, and I will catch you guys in the next review. Make sure you check out my friend Christoph over at Ale Degustations. I'll try to remember to put the link to his channel in the video description below. Slanger, Skull, cheers, and catch you guys very soon.